Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My very good friends, uh, mentors, learners, students, teachers, and above all, our faculty and students. Today, I have a very different presentation or a lecture which is based on the emerging challenges to the education sector in Pakistan in the wake of the COVID-19. And this is basically one of my articles which are being published in the local newspapers, both in Urdu and English. And today we got the first part of this published in one of the local English newspaper every day in the Gilgit-Baltistan. The objective of this lecture is to share our vision of online education and the kind of threats and opportunities we have while sitting at the Karakoram International University. And certainly, in the present scenario, when we are faced with multiple challenges of public health safety, safety and security of the student, staff, and faculty at the campus, and more important is also to save the life of the student, life of the students, their academic life as well as their physical life. So the COVID-19 and the post-COVID-19 world is becoming really to be more challenging, and the university, one way or the other way, have to come up with the solutions which can be sustainable, which can be acceptable, and which can be amicably viable in the present environment. So in the today article, we will provide you an overview and a holistic view of the online education in the Gilgit-Baltistan, the threats and opportunities. And before I formally start, I will start from the verses of the Holy Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من ألف الشهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر صدق الله العظيم. Since these are the last 10 very important and blissful days of and nights of the Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan, so I pray that we take enough time to offer our supplications to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we also solicit the well and the raza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen. So I will start with these two very important quotes of one of the MIT Mathematician, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, one of the leading science and technology university in the world. And this Seymor Papart says that you can't teach people everything they need to know, and the best you can do is position them where they can find what they need and know and when they need to. And another very important quotation by Bernard Kelvin Clive: 10 years from now, it won't really matter what school you attended, whether online or offline education, free or paid, widely known or not. What will matter is the most you learned, what you learned, the skill you acquired, and how you leveraged it. Use every opportunity to better yourself. So that is the bottom line, that you have to use each and every opportunity to develop yourself, to develop your systems, to develop your comprehension, your skills and attitudes. Now the just to give a background of this, COVID-19 has played a havoc with the uh, people, that the novel coronavirus and its infection, COVID-19 has played an unprecedented havoc with the world. The number of infections and casualties due to this great public health crisis and pandemic are unparalleled in the living human memory. At least in the 100 years memory, more or less, we don't have, after the Spanish flu, we don't have such kind of big catastrophe. Today, more than 250,000, and I think today it has already crossed 270,000 in last 2 days or 3 days. Have died, whereas more than 2.5 million have been infected with this lethal disease. The term new normal has been coined by the experts for the post-COVID-19 world, and IMF, World Bank, and other international financial institutions have given the estimated impact of 10% less than projected global GDP, which can be something like 9 to 10 trillion US dollars, because currently the global GDP is around 90 to 95 trillion dollars. So if we expect a 10% decrease in the global GDP, that would mean something like 9 to 10 trillion dollars decrease in the global output. In Pakistan alone, the GDP growth has been projected to reduce to 1.5%, or even in the worst condition, it can be even negative. And the last day assessment is that if the COVID is going, then we can expect minus 1% growth rate. That would mean that the GDP we had last year, well, this year we have less than that by 1 or 2%. The economic depression will have severe impact on the global employment, and today we believe that there has been a lot of layoffs to the extent of 8 to 10 million, and there is expected decrease is 10%, and according to the International Labour Organization, out of 4 people, 1 would be jobless, and that would be very alarming, because that can double in the next 2 to 3 years. So the financial impact is supposed to further worsen in the world for at least 3 to 4 months to recover, and even more, because we had an announcement from the government today that even the COVID can continue perpetually for a very long time. So some of the sectors which have been badly affected are the hospitality and tourism, oil sector, hotel industry, education sectors, small and medium enterprises, and small businesses to the extent of collapse. Now, when we look at the education sector, this was unfortunately the peak time of education activities, because at one hand, we had the spring semester in most of the university had just taken a start. And in our case, like KIU, we had not even started the spring semester. And at the second, in the other way, at the other hand, the metric and the FA intermediate examination were already planned, and in some of the boards, few papers were also held in the metric exam. So in that context, this is supposed to be the peak academic period in the academic year. So very few higher educational institute could start their classes, or when the COVID-19 spread from Wuhan, and then it spread it to the global, creating a pandemic situation. In this context, the universities and the educational institutions were closed to 31st May, but now it has been further extended by the federal government to 15th July, which has certainly created a big challenge of revenue and financial sustainability for the educational institutions on one hand, and at the other hand, the most serious repercussion is the academic semester of the students. In Karakoram University, we have done a lot of hard work. The team of KIU has done really great work. They could restore the fall semester, and we have really worked very hard to bring the academic calendar to its original shape. But unfortunately, if we are not able to have this spring semester, then certainly we have a very big loss for the student. In this regard, HCC needs to immediately take up. This is also a very request from our side that since all the universities and public and private sector have been facing this financial crisis, so we would request the HCC that 15% additional allocation may be proposed in the form of a bailout package for the higher education institutions. Now, the HCC has been doing a great job in the sense that they tried to do two good things. That firstly, they convinced the university for a safety and security of students, staff, and employees, and for their sake, very effective system was deployed by all the educational institutions. And secondly, was to explore the alternate teaching, learning, and assessment system so that the time of the student is not wasted. In this context, there has been a series of meetings, I think 4 to 5 meetings. And the first ever meeting was held on the 6th of March when the pandemic had just crossed the boundaries of China, and there was a very high sensitivity across the world. But certainly the HCC took very end-time decision. And then while working with the GB government, we immediately closed the universities, and we had to close the university because we were afraid that if we open the university, the students from the hostel would be difficult to move, and that may create some more exposure of the students to the COVID-19. So we decided soon after this meeting, I think on the 7th of March, we decided to close the university, and then it was followed by the federal government also. And the university was initially closed to the end of March, but later it was extended to 31st May. And the second thing was that trust was created by HEIs that to continue the education of the students, there is a need to bring combination of online, offline, distance learning, and e-learning modes, which is also sometimes called blended learning. So the chances of opening up HEIs by 31st May were never more than 50%, and the chairman HCC always alluded that in the policy we should pay for the bus but pay for the words was adopted from the inception of the problem. The latest announcement of the federal government to extend the closure of education institute is not surprising because we were expecting this even for last 2 months. Hence, in the new scenario, the option of online classes and blended learning remain a hope to save the time and students and avoid the financial collapse of KIU at the other hand. Before explaining the online policy, I think we should see that what is the brief history of this online education or open and distance learning education. Now, the story of the open online and distance education is now almost 100+ years old. And the University of Chicago was the first college which started its 100 years back in 1921. They started the live audio show, and they also started the through postal service their assignment. So this was basically a kind of distance learning. And then the Federal Commission of Communication started to issue the radio license for at least 200 institutions till 1945 to use the radio for education of the masses, and this included the University of Minnesota, University of Wisconsin, and University of Salt Lake City. This instituted TV license for broadcasting also to the educational institution in '93, and then the instructional television fixed services (ITFS) were started. And in this context, the University of California and all these started the broadcasting of their e-material. And I remember that in Pakistan, the ETV was, the education TV was started somewhere in 80s or late 70s to broadcast the educational material, and it is even running today. So the infusion of radio TV broadcasting into dissemination of media-based education created a big impact of the ODL, open and distance learning, and most of such programs are focused on continuous development and capacity building. And same was later on also used by the Allama Iqbal Open University through the studio, and the material which was recorded the Allama Iqbal Open University was mainly broadcasted from the ETV of the in the 70s and 80s. And for the most of the cases in this broadcasting, we have something like continuing education for school teachers and for those who are already employed. And this was mostly in the model of the UK Open University in the Milton Keynes. In 1991, when the World Wide Web was created by Berners-Lee, which proved a catalyst for the dissemination of the open distance learning to information superhighway, which was later unnamed as Internet. In the early 2000s, the initiative of Massachusetts Institute for Open Access Courseware, which is still very famous open access courseware, in the first decade of 21st century, online education has been adopted by a large number of colleges. The share of online education increased from 39% in 2008 to 42% in 2009. I believe that today it is standing at something like 50%, which shows that by the end of next 10 years, almost 70 to 80% of the students will be one way or the other way taking benefit from the online education. One of the inherent challenges of the online and distance learning has been the active and real-time interactions with the students. In the second decade of this century, ODL has become more interactive with the use of modern multimedia and simulation tools, creating virtual classroom environment and motivating the student to become connected to the effective learning and delivery system. And I think the modern virtual reality and augmented reality like things have created a lot of simulation models, and we can have a real classroom-like environment. This has enhanced the reliability and consistency of the ODL as it has been treated equally credited and accepted qualification and education in most part of the world. And this is becoming now very famous and acceptable mode of education. So in next 2 decades, I think in the 30s and 40s, we believe that the virtual education will become a more visible reality as the physical socialization will be changed to virtual socialization by the new telegeneration. The high dependence of this new breed of telegeneration will be on the education through virtual and online modes. Use technology, interactive tools, highly modern contents, and delivery mix will keep on refining the ODL and virtual education with every new day. And this is the challenge for all of us. Now, when we look at the policy which has been given by the Higher Education Commission, it has got 2 broader components. One is the readiness of the system and institution, and the second is the class and course readiness. The first one has got 5 or 6 components, which is the university readiness, that university has got a well-defined governance structure for online education. And this should be comprised of the standard operating procedures, quality assurance, and review of online courses. The second component is the learning management system and its IT interface to a virtually classroom. And third is the governance structure. So 3 very important is to have the standard operating procedures. The second is the learning management system. The third one is the governance structure for the approval of such courses, and for which the HCC has emphasized on the online academic council. The second very important component, not only in the online but also in the offline or traditional education system, is the library readiness, but it becomes really more important when we are talking about the online education, because the student cannot have access to the formal libraries. Therefore, the university should provide the students with a rich resource of e-books and e-resources which can be accessed by the students. So there are already very strong education and research network of the HCC PERM, and there are a lot of open access resources. We have developed different kinds of open access resources which have been uploaded at the KIU website, and it can be readily available to the students. The third one is the technology readiness, that how the LMS which has been developed can be launched on the technology platforms, and it should be tested. And the most important is to have the classes online. So there are a number of tools like Zoom, MS Teams, Google Hangouts, and many more. So the staff and student must have good access and knowledge about these tools. and we are trying to educate the students and staff and the faculty about these tools. Another very important aspect is the evaluation, testing, and quizzes, which certainly makes it very difficult for the online assessment. There are different very good system available which have a good reliability, relevance, security, and transparency. Since majority of the traditional assessments are based on verbose and descriptive questions and answers, therefore, arranging of online assessment evaluation should remain a major challenge. So there are various options like open books, case study analysis, MCQs, question papers, textbook question papers, and again the grading policy and rules, something like that. So we are working on that. HCC is also providing us some guidelines for administering the exams online. We are going for the course readiness, and really it's very important that first of all the course must be ready for the online launching, and when we talk about that, that would mean that there must be course objectives clearly defined, the course learning outcomes, weekly teaching plans, lectures, recommended books, availability of at least one ebook and e-resource online, grading system, online class rules and disciplines, attendance system, logistics. More important is customization of these resources is e-resource. And this is e-learning committee will be required, which will apply the initial checks and recommend the courses for approval of the online committees. This is more like digitalizing the traditional course file of the teachers. Faculty readiness is another very important attribute in which we would like to see that how the faculty is ready to take up the challenge of online education. And for this, we would like to improve their skills to establish their class and to have the students contact, to respond to their queries, and also engage them interactive, engage them in the classes, and also if there is any revision required in the course, to customize that course to the online mechanism. So there must be some system, and finally there must be online student counseling system must be deployed in the LMS. The laboratory readiness is a challenge because in the courses where we have the wet laboratories and where we have the student psychomotor and affective domain, that is attitude and skill is required to be developed. But still there are a lot of tools like MOOCs, drone, and simulation modeling. But again, this will also involve the different councils, the engineering council, the medical council, because in the clinical side, it becomes really very challenging to do the online labs activities. But certainly the HCC is suggesting that this kind of activities may be either deferred or it may be delayed till the 15th of July to see that if the universities are open, then we can have the laboratories at a later stage. And at the moment, we can have their assessment, provisional assessments. The student readiness, this is really a big challenge for all universities, and particularly when the students are located in the remote areas and when they don't have access, and again, their capacity is also not enough. So there are many things like their capacity, the internet speed, the availability of gadgets for them like laptop, palm top, and computers to be connected to the internet. So these are some of the challenges, and in GB particularly, we have the greatest challenge of the internet and the speed of internet. For us, we think that this is an opportunity to learn. When I joined KIU back in 2018 June, one of my 7 top agendas were to digitalize and automate the university. We've been working for the last 1.5 years now and developing the various tools and various pieces. But with this opportunity, I believe that we have integrated our efforts. And since I have a good experience of online education from the Allama Iqbal University, and later on when I joined as Vice Chancellor of the City University, we tried to develop a campus automation system and learning management system. So I've been working with the e-learning management system, with the computer science department and IT department for almost 1 year now. And we established an IT task force and the safety committee, and a number of other committees were established. And the main objective was to develop the paradigm and the framework for the online education. And so I think the safety committee and the e-learning and online committee has done a great job, and we have developed a robust, highly interactive learning management system. And at the same time, we have also developed very stringent safety and security protocols for the students and for the other people at the campus. We have assigned Dr. Aftab, who is the chair of the computer science department, to develop the LMS, and Alhamdulillah, we have been able to develop a very good LMS, the IT technical team. And at the same time, the director IT, Mr. Khalid Amin, is working to develop the various platforms of technology to launch this learning management system in online education. I have also developed a SWOT analysis of the online education at KIU, which is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats analysis. And I'll give a brief background. For example, the strengths we have, the Department of Computer Science was one of the earliest departments which was even established before the start of university. And today we have 4 these programs in the computer, software engineering, IT, and GIS and remote sensing, which is shows a strong student base in this department. And at the same time, we have a very young and qualified faculty in the different areas of computer science, software engineering, machine learning, information technology in education, and GIS remote sensing. And this gives us a big strength. These graduates of the CS department are not only very proactive, but they are also working with the different software houses, and even some of them have also established their own software houses. Now, within the campus, there is a very strong intranet, and we have a strong collaboration with the Spatial Communication Organization, SCO, SESCOM, mobile, and has enabled a reliable high-speed internet across the campus. Young, energetic technology, smart faculty, and the having 8 to 10 years experience, and within an age of 35 to 45 years is a highly productive age bracket. So we can expect that we can bring a very good change, transformation in the technology-based education. We are also working with the SCO as a partner in 3 major projects. One of the projects is to develop a technology park, which is we have already signed an agreement with them, and soon in July we expect that the DG of the Spatial Communication Organization, Engineer Major General Farhan Ali, would be visiting the KIU. So we are looking for an Ignite funded a joint venture of the technology park with the SCO, and then it will be followed by a SCO KIU giant technology institute at the campus. And we are also working in the corporate social responsibility towards environment and society. So these are the 3 areas we are closely working with the. We have established the committees for the developing the course and the standard operating procedures. The online academic council is also established. We have also deployed a learning management system which is flexible, reliable, and secured. And we are continuing with the training of our students, faculty, the class representatives, and the other people to use these LMS systems. The faculty and staff have been trained intensively on the use of the IT tools, and we have a high frequency of the classes now on these tools. We have also provided the virtual private network to the faculty, so that if they want to access the various resources which are available only through the KIU internet protocol or address, then the virtual private network can have an access from the outside also, and it can be facilitated. We have some weaknesses also, and one of the biggest weakness is the poor capacity of the students and the library services for online education. For example, the students are not only poor, they are coming from the poor background, but at the same time their capacity for using the IT education for their learning is also very poor, because they are coming traditionally from the public college and schools where the IT education is not very effective. And secondly, they may not have the gadgets which are required for the uh, learning, online learning. And the biggest challenge we have the internet connectivity, which again is a very big challenge for us. The library in KIU, unfortunately, is very traditional, and we are trying to improve that. We have added something like 100,000 ebooks in the last few months. Dr. Asif Khan, who is the convener of the library committee, is working with the library staff to automate. And we hope that within the next 6 months, we will establish not only a new library in the main campus, but also we will develop a library part in the engineering faculty. And in this context, we will have 4 libraries at the campus, one in the main library, and then there is already we established a graduate library in the Faculty of Education. And the 3rd library will be in the academic block, which is just completed, and we are developing the furniture and the other resources. And the 4th library will be in the Faculty of Engineering. So we are trying to improve the e-library resources for the access of the students. There is no well-defined online e-assessment protocols. We have given this task to the Dean of Social Sciences and PhD in Education to give us the wisdom about the online assessment and education, and we will be using the protocols being used by the virtual university, ComSets, and other universities. Now, the opportunities are many, because if we look at the geographic and demographic diversity of the GB, it is ideal for experimenting with e-learning and online education, as the access to the remotest part of the region through formal face-to-face modes will always remain a challenge. Hence, a blended system of e-learning, online and open distance learning has to be crafted to reach the unreached. In the present circumstances, when the COVID-19 has caused continuous closure of the universities for more than 4 months, like us, since the winter vacations, and even on 15th of July, we are not certain. So we are in a high-risk situation, and if university is not open, then certainly we will not be able to have the spring semester. So in this context, it is very important for us now to start with the blended e-learning models. Another important thing is that in the COVID-19, after the COVID-19, we have a totally different world where the new normal is becoming, and the education would become really a blended learning model, because we will have a frequent and recurring kind of events like COVID-19, and the university has to be very smart and provide the blended learning so that we can have the alternate delivery and assessment mechanisms. E-learning, online education, and ODL can provide a flexible platform for the skill development programs badly needed in the GB in the context of CPEC projects. I think when I was meeting with the President, Honorable President, who is also the Chancellor of KIU on 8th of May, one of his concerns was to develop the low-level and middle-level skill people for the CPEC projects also. And he advised and he desired that KIU should play a very dynamic role while working with the NAVTEC and TVET and TAVTA. So the private institutions of 2-year program of B and MA has been discontinued by HCC, but at the same time they are considering to develop and announce ODL policy and allow the higher education institutes very soon to use it for the education of private students. So a well-designed and a deployed ODL system will create more opportunities for the KIU to extend its teaching and learning services more widely to GB and beyond the mountain communities of the neighboring countries, including Afghanistan, Central Asia, and even China. When we look at the threats, we have again very number of threats. The biggest threat is the availability of the quality connectivity, both in terms of the facilities, in terms of speed and connectivity. Because a large part of the GB is still not connected, and the speed is in the level of 2G and 3G, in which we cannot have a very good video streaming, and we can have very light downloads. So we conducted a survey latestly, and we have come to, we have observed that 30 to 35% of the area has been covered by the internet. And again, the outages of the electricity in most part of the GB for hours, long hours, is also creating a lot of restriction to the use of the internet. We are closely working with the SCO, the Sector Commander, Colonel Saqib, and also the DG, Director General, Major General Farhan Ali. I met him before this COVID-19, and we are trying to improve the internet connectivity in the Gilgit-Baltistan. So I believe that within next couple of years, when the CPEC links are also provided, because China is thinking to establish 30 state-of-the-art kind of study and resource centers. So these centers can be used for the dissemination of education and research by the KIU once we have already deployed a very good online education system. The cultural constraints of GB are also there, because people are not very advanced in the use of the technology, so the technological transformation will take some time. But the real important thing is that the internet and social media in GB is increasing exponentially, and particularly the youth of the GB are using the social networks and the social media in a greater number as compared to the other part of the world, which is a matter of high interest. And we could see that almost 80% or 75% people which we surveyed almost 1,000 plus students across the GB, and they have access to the internet one way or the other way through different gadgets, which is a very interesting takeaway. There is a problem with the students, maybe 30 to 40% that they don't have the standard gadgets for the using of online education, but still 75% students have access to the different kinds of equipments, and most of them have the cell phones or the smartphones through which they are approaching the internet. So while giving the detail of all these threats and opportunities, I believe as Vice Chancellor and as a member of the KIU team, and while realizing and analyzing the university for the last 2 years, I believe that open and distance learning, e-learning, a non-formal education, or a blended learning has been facing the challenges of adoptability since inception. This majority of the students around the world are using it either a supplementary source of learning or a complementing the source of learning. The number of students are increasing and reaching the figure of 50% within 5 to 10 years. In Pakistan, the technologically advanced university of both public and private sectors have been utilizing the open distance learning and blended learning as an alternate source of education for many years. Today, the students of these institutes seem less affected by the COVID-19. For us at GB, this is high time to experiment the ODL and blended learning to save the future of our students. And my dear listeners and audience, let me tell you that when we developed the LMS in the City University, today, alhamdulillah, the online classes are being done by the institution through the LMS we developed back in 2015 and 16. And alhamdulillah, the City University today is working virtually. They are taking the exams virtually, and they are not facing any threat of the semester freeze or things like that. So I believe that these online education can not only save the future of our students, but also it can provide opportunities and extend the outreach of university to the rest of the GB, and we can use it for different types of skill development programs. We can use it for different types of online education, and it can play a very a revolutionary role in educating the entire Gilgit-Baltistan. So my request to all the students, their parents, my faculty, my staff would be to kindly support this transformation process, because we never know that what is the future of the world and Pakistan and GB in the post-COVID-19, and how long the university is going to suffer in this very painful situations. So my request to all of you is to please come forward. I have already advised the HODs and the deans that at least each teacher should offer at least one course before 31st May. And we are now bringing from 1st June onwards, we are thinking to bring the online education in a greater volume, so that we can save the life and the academic semester of the students. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and this was my thoughts on the online education in the Gilgit-Baltistan, and I hope that this will create a lot of opportunities for students and for all of us. Thank you very much.